Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including iTunes and Spotify. Leave a 5-star review. You can say whatever you want to say. Just make sure it's a 5-star review. You can say Steve has fantastic guests, but he's a little bit of a narcissist himself. I'll say, okay, just make sure it's a 5-star review. I'm here with Eddie Small. We are always talking about the OG of the receivers corps. Like Shay Hodge talked about him being the OG and Mike Espy, and everybody's going back. Well, we got Eddie Small from like the early 90s, and the original, he put 2 bills up on Vanderbilt. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm doing great, and yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. We just concluded camp at Ole Miss, and I kind of wonder, what was it like to play for Billy Brewer back under that staff in that era?
Yeah, man. Billy Brewer, I mean, back then, I mean, Billy, the dog, as they used to call him. And Billy was an open door type guy, man. I mean, great players coach. I mean, old school. I mean, he didn't hold anything back. You know, that's on the field, off the field. I mean, you know, on the field he push you, and off the field, man, he'll hug you and tell you he love you. You know, old school type coach, great guy.
Yeah. What's a camp story? What do you remember something that happened particularly in camp?
Oh man, with Coach Brewer, I mean, man, he held one thing about Brewer, he held us, you know, accountable as far as a team. You know, we wasn't the most gifted team, we wasn't the fastest nor the biggest, but man, we played with, you know, I guess that dog mentality. You know, it was instilled in us from day one. You know, I recall my freshman year when I reported to Ole Miss, and I was only 17 years old, and being away from home, you know, you kind of, especially in my case, 11 hours away, you're, you know, you're a little nervous. You know, first time away from mom and dad, and man, they had a way of introducing you to the college level. You know, hey, he was like, you can forget about mom and dad. No one's here to save your butt. And you're you're mine now. You know, and man, I knew from that point on. I mean, hey, I was happy. I was happy to know that I was in good hands, but at the same time, like, man, just a little nervous. You know, you can be a little nervous in at that point. But it was all good, man. Brewer, he always had your best interest. You know.
Yeah, I think when you signed with Ole Miss was just coming off a Liberty Bowl. They lost their quarterback with John Darnell. So
Correct.
you would have gotten right there as a true freshman with Rush Alls and Tom Luke. Talk about how the offense kind of ran through those guys and what each of them brought to the table.
Man, back then, I mean, we ran an old offense under what was the offensive coordinator, Red Fox is what they called him. But man, we were Tom and Rashad both they brought a lot to the table. Tom himself, I mean, he didn't have as big of an arm as Rashad, but man, he was a hard-nosed player. I don't know if you recall watching him play. Man, he pretty much was the guy that ran the option. He did most of the running, but he would stick his head down there, and if we needed a yard or two, man, we can count on Tom. When it came to Russ, I mean, Russ had a big arm. I mean, he had a nice ball. I always wondered to this day, like, how come that guy didn't get a shot to the NFL? But both of them brought a lot to the game, and it was first time I think during that era, first time you ever seen 2 quarterbacks, you know, rotating in and out like they did. But they did a great job, both of them. They
Do you
brought a
remember
lot of
that?
energy to the team. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that Gator Bowl in '90 with Michigan?
Yeah, do I?
Yeah. What kind of happened there? What?
What happened? Yeah, you know, it's hilarious. I mean, we did great that year. We did good. I think we went 9-2, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, it came down to that Gator Bowl. It's like, who's the real Big M? You know, you got Michigan and you got Mississippi, and man, you know, it was amazing. I think that year, I don't know if we had played UT the bowls. I'm not sure. I think it was my freshman year, but long story short, at the time, I think UT may have been like one of the bigger teams we ever faced against. And man, when we played against Michigan, it we had like I don't know if you remember Sean O'Malley. He's the nose guard. He's like 5'9", 5'10", and but Sean did a great job. I mean, all year long. But it was man amongst boys out there. Them guys. I think they had Desmond Howard. Man, he ran all over us. It was. I mean, it was one of them type deals. We were like, hey, man, we stuck in there. But I just one little incident after halftime. Anytime I get to see Tom, Luke, and Russ Shaw, we came out after halftime, and they were like discussing who was going to start the series. And man, it was funny, but they were like, hey, you want to start? Like, no, you can start. And it was one of those type games where you just couldn't wait to get it over with. Like, good God. But yeah, it was a heck of an experience, man.
Yeah. But I wanted to start with that one. We're going to get happier after this.
Okay.
You ended up in, I think, 92 was the year with the Joe Lee Dunn defense and Cassius Ware and Dwayne Dotson and all of those guys. Talk about going up against them every day in practice, because you talk about men amongst boys, those guys could play.
Well, put it this way, man. Thank God we didn't have to go against them guys. Being on the first team, normally it's like ones against twos, But man, and truth be told, I don't recall them guys ever doing like scrimmaging, or I'm not gonna say scrimmaging, but man, I just recall Joe Lee just running the crap out of them guys. They ran from sideline to sideline, and it was like first guy to the ball. I mean, all 11 had to get to the ball. Them guys, it was amazing. I mean, and I look back at it now, during that time, you don't really appreciate the guys that you're around, but you do look at the stats like, dang, we ranked number like 1 and 2 in defense. But you don't, man, I look back at videos, I'm like, man, we had a beast on defense. Norman Hand, of course, I mean, Chad Brown, the list goes on. A whole bunch of guys. Secondary were awesome. So Johnny Dixon, my old roommate, that whole defense was stacked. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember which year it was. It was either 92 or 93, and I was in high school in Mississippi and had recruit tickets and went up to a Georgia game. And Cassius Ware absolutely killed Eric Zier and has picked up. Abdul Jackson picked it up and ran in for a touchdown. But that play will always stick out in my mind.
Yeah. Man, them guys, I mean, Dwayne Dotson, I recall, Dwayne would study film. And he'd have, of course, him and Cassius, they were roommates. But them guys, they were serious. I mean, they were dedicated to that film, to that football team. And, it's like Dwayne saw plays before they even happened. I think he was one of those ones that were like ahead of his time. Cassius Ware, man, a specimen. Even to this day, I think he's still a specimen. I mean, you look at that guy. But that's on the field. You know him off the field, like totally opposite. Great guy, loving guy, man, a real soft, big teddy bear, to be honest with you. But those some great guys, man. Great guys.
All right, so we're gonna talk about the Vanderbilt game. That record held up for about 30 years. I think AJ might have been the receiver that broke it. I can't remember which one, but it was in the mid 2000s that it went down.
Right.
But how did that offense? And this isn't any slight against you at all, but Ole Miss didn't throw the ball very much. Like,
correct.
Yeah. How did you get 210 yards in a Vanderbilt game?
Well, back then, man, we were like. We used to talk about yaks, it's about yards after catch, and then we took pride in that as receivers, the guy who held the record prior to me was Pat Coleman. I think Pat Coleman he had just left, so I think his record may have stood maybe 2 years, about 3 or 4 years, maybe. I can't recall exactly, but once again, in Red Fox offense as a receiver, you're in a 3-point stand. My brother's gonna give me a hard time about that to this day. But anyway, um, but so you're not in like a running, in a type offense that the ball just stayed in the air. No, like today, I only can imagine. But I don't like to get caught up in that. I don't want to sound like an old head that's bitter, so and so. But God knows, man, about So any opportunity, of course, back then you didn't get too many balls thrown your way, so you tried to make the best of it. Every opportunity given. So if I catch the ball, I'm trying to get to the end zone. I don't give a damn where I was. Excuse my language, but I don't care. We're on our 2-yard line. I'm trying to go 98 yards with it. So I had a couple of big runs in that game. And funny thing about it is, when I broke the record, I actually took my tape off. I was letting one of the other guys, the younger guys, go in and get some reps. And somewhere or another, they couldn't find the helmet, so I had to run in. And I've taken my tape off, my gloves off, and man, it just so happened the ball came my way, and boom, I broke the record. Scored a touchdown. It was the last catch I had. I think it went for like 30 yards or something like that. But yeah, amazing game, man.
So we're going to talk about this in a second, but your son is the starting running back at Tennessee. If you were in that Josh Heupel offense, doing what Cedric Tillman does, yeah, I can see you smiling already just thinking about it.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, man, I don't like, I don't never talk about it. I just, in my head, you just like, wow, really? Man, it's a receiver's dream. I mean, if you look at the draft, I don't think the first running back got taken until like second round last year. So I just let you know, like, man, it's a receiver's game today. So, looking back at it, you would, looking at it now, you'll think like, man, whew, how fun would it be just to know that the ball, your ball's coming your way a good 8 times, 10 times a game, and that's paradise for a receiver. Has to be.
And you have a unique situation. I think 2 of your brothers and your son have played for SEC schools. Talk about that. Were you the first, and then like OJ and
Tony?
And Tony?
Yeah. Well, I was the first. I'm the oldest. And the funny thing is, Ole Miss didn't really recruit neither one of them. And I was, my middle brother Tony, he hung out with me up there at like the summer of going to my senior year. And I think actually Leroy Mullins did a surgery. He didn't do the surgery. He did, the physical therapy on his knee. I think my brother had some type of little bone removed from his femur or whatnot. But long story short, so they were familiar with Tony, and I don't know what happened. Tony, I don't know if they didn't think they could get him at the time. I think Tony was like, he was highly ranked, as a receiver, but man, when did that stop anything? So it was kind of one of them type deals. I had got a few phone calls, and people were like, man, what's going on? Why? I didn't have a clue, and I didn't understand it, but everything worked out for the best. He ended up going to Georgia, and he did pretty well there. And of course, OJ, my youngest brother, man, he played quarterback actually in high school. And I'm not going to sit and lie to you. When Steve Spurrier recruited him as a receiver, I'm like, man, get the heck out of here! How in the world are you getting up at Florida? Playing with quarterback. but he, I give him a hard time, but he made the best of it. Both of them ended up making all SEC wide receivers, and so and at the end of the day, man, they were able to go out and create their own, their legacy or whatnot. So they didn't want to follow in Big Brother's footsteps, I suppose.
Yeah, and with Jabari, we're not going to talk about recruitment or anything like that, but what is it like to be a dad watching your son playing in the SEC in that situation? Because that's got to be a complete role reversal, and all the stuff you were counting on whenever you were playing, you're like, no, just be okay.
Right. And man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll be 50 years old this year, and I'm like, man, and this is my youngest son. So it's of course playing running back, and I was type. I wanted to play on defense. I never worked with him as a receiver. Never worked with his hands. I'm like, nah, dude, we're gonna be on the defensive side of the ball. But anyway, Jabari, he's like that. He's the running back, and man, back like I was saying earlier, Brewer, he instilled that dog in you. I don't care if you hurt. I don't care if your arm is when you run, your shoulders popping just popping out the joint, or man, you keep your butt in the game. And so you get older, you learn like, dang, I should have took better care of my body, so on and so forth. But so you kind of want to, I guess, inform your kids. And I tell Jabari, like, man, hey, man, so there's a life after football. So hey, you get dinged up, you tell the coach, and you come out the game, and you take care of yourself. It's not, Anyway, long story short, he ended up getting injured, unfortunately, early on last year, and man, and he constantly put himself out the game. Then he's wondering, like, well, why they saying I'm not tough, Dad? Why they question my durability? I'm like, do you really want to know? And this is like after he's been whining and crying, I'm gonna say not whining and crying, but a little concerned about, them questioning his toughness and his durability. And I told him, I said, man, do you want Dad or you want the me to get it to you raw? He's like, give it to me raw, Dad. Well, I'm gonna tell you then. Well, you need to keep your ass in the damn game. I don't give a damn unless your arm is falling off. If it's not hanging off by your skin, you keep playing. And I hate to tell you this, but if this is what means, if it means that much to you, this is what it's gonna take. And so, of course, man, I'm in the stands. I'm nervous. I'm like a nervous. I'm one time I was at the booth trying to get something to drink, and I'm sitting there, I'm shaking the entire time. Like, man, and I know he's hurt. And it's like, man, you got 250-pound linebackers, coming at you full speed, and you have two blown shoulders, and you're doing the best you can And I understand it's football, but I'm like, man, it's the parent, this dad, talking like, man, damn, that's my poor son out there, like, get out of there, son. But hey, anyway, this is what he want to do. So, hey, he made it through. He made it past it. So he's able to overcome that.
Yeah. Do you know who Jabari kind of reminds me of? And I think this player was at Ole Miss when you were there, but he has a little bit of Corey Philpott in him.
Yeah, he does. Real quick, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Philpott, man, he was a slasher, real fast, real quick. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, he hits a whole 100 miles per hour. Yeah, he can make people miss and open.
Jabari's kind of a slight guy. You just get nervous because he runs hard, but
you're right. Yeah. Here's the thing, man. I'm like, once again, the old Eddie will be like, hey, man, you run through these guys. You put your head down, you run them over, or so on and so forth. Now I'm like, hey, man, look, you can avoid all the contact you can, do it. You're right. Make them miss. It's not your job to get, to take on tackles. It's your job to make them miss. So, yeah, he does a pretty good job at it.
Yeah.
Corey Philpott, great. Yeah, that would be a great comparison, without a doubt.
Yeah. Anyway, get more of the SEC by making Locked On SEC your second listen every day. Host Chris Gordy and his local experts of Locked On take you across the SEC in 30 minutes or less. Make Locked On SEC your second listen of the day. That's Locked On SEC. Eddie Small joining us. Thank you very much today, man. This has been a great call, and hopefully in the future, we can get back and do it again, man.
Oh yeah, sounds good. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Have a good day, man.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.